The unofficial kickoff to summer is here, and it signals the start or maybe the increase in some of those seasonal health and safety concerns. Oh, not to mention a couple of global health worries lately. Never a shortage of things to talk to Onondaga County Health Commissioner Dr. Katie Anderson. Katie, good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's go back a little bit. Hantavirus on that cruise ship certainly grabbed a lot of headlines. A week later, about a week ago, today, we learned about a case in Geneva. What's the level of concern locally with hantavirus?
Yeah, so I can understand why people are concerned about hantaviruses. They're very serious viruses. It's a family of viruses that can cause severe disease. There's no vaccine, there's no antiviral, and the case fatality rate can be high. But I want to be clear that these two situations, Geneva and the cruise ship, are two very different situations, but that for both, the risk to the general public is very low. So for the cruise ship, as we've been talking about, as people know, it was a specific strain, this Andes strain or South American strain of hantavirus that's unique in that it can spread person to person. On the cruise ship, as we've talked about, there were 11 cases, 3 of them died, and now many people, including some Americans, are in quarantine. The difference between hantaviruses and the viruses that we think about, like influenza and COVID, is that it actually doesn't spread very efficiently person to person. So even the Andes strain, it's kind of hard to spread. A cruise ship is a unique environment, uniquely suited to spreading viruses like the Andes strain. And then you have people from all over the world who are gathered closely together indoors for extended periods, breathing recirculated air. That's a unique environment that's not easily replicated elsewhere. Epidemiologists that I follow and that I trust are recommending that this, or are advising that this outbreak is going to die out on its own with proper containment in a couple weeks, which is already happening. So going forward from this cruise ship virus, the risk is low.
Geneva is a different strain, so what is our level of concern? What are we dealing with there, and why do people like yourself seem to be on a lower level of concern with it?
So the Geneva case, it's a suspected case so far.
Yeah, of what we suspect and know, yes.
If confirmed to be hantavirus, it would be our more typical hantavirus, which can occur occasionally in New York. It's still somewhat rare, but this is a more typical hantavirus in that it's spread by rodents. So people can be exposed when they are, for example, sweeping up or cleaning up an attic, a cabin, a barn that has been sitting closed up for some months, and there are rodent droppings or rodent urine that the person then breathes in. These cases can also be serious. Again, they're relatively rare. We do have them in New York State. The important take-home in this case is totally different than the cruise ship, but they're similar in, because it's a different strain, different mode of spread. They're similar in that, again, the risk to the general public is very low, and in this case, there would be no risk of human-to-human transmission. Okay, we cleared up Hanta. We want to talk about Ebola, because that seems to obviously be a big concern in Africa for sure. What about here in New York State? What should be our level of concern? And then maybe what's our global concern? So this is another situation where locally our risk is going to be quite low. And actually for most countries of the world with this Ebola outbreak, the risk is going to be very low. And there's a couple reasons for that, which I'll go into. But first, for framing, currently there's an evolving outbreak of Ebola in Central Africa. There's several hundred cases in Democratic Republic of Congo, and there have been a few cases identified in Uganda. This is very concerning because this Ebola virus has a high fatality rate. Even in this outbreak alone, there's been about a 30 to 40% mortality. And we expect that in the weeks to come, it's going to worsen, and there are going to be many, many more cases. Ebola does not spread as easily, again, as influenza or SARS-CoV-2 from person to person. It's not airborne, and for a person to become infected, they need to have very close contact with an infected person's bodily fluids or blood. So these outbreaks tend to be more serious and thrive in situations where you have insufficient resourcing of public health systems, healthcare systems that are not as robust as, say, the United States, and people are then more vulnerable to these outbreaks. We don't expect that this, similar to hantavirus, is going to be our next pandemic, and we don't expect that it will pose a significant risk to us here.
I like to hear that on both counts here. Let's talk about something that we do have to worry about here, and those are tick-borne viruses and illnesses. We know about Lyme, but you mentioned this to me before, and I want to talk about it. Alpha-gal syndrome, is that how you pronounce it? What is it? How do you get it? What's the concern level with this?
So alpha-gal is an emerging public health problem driven by ticks. Not yet on the order of magnitude of Lyme disease. So as we've talked about, 30% of deer ticks identified here carry Lyme disease. Alpha-gal is something that we're watching, and it's more of a problem in downstate, but we're starting to see the ticks associated with this disease here. Alpha-gal itself is a fascinating and very frustrating and debilitating condition for people who acquire it. Alpha-gal isn't an infection, it's an allergic response that you get when you're bitten by a certain type of tick, the Lone Star tick, and your body forms an immune reaction against their saliva that causes you to have an allergic type response to red meat, as well as some medications and some food products. And so if a person, after they develop this allergy, consumes red meat or one of those other types of products, some hours later they may have digestive problems, they may develop hives, they may develop anaphylaxis. As I mentioned, so this has been largely concentrated so far in downstate where these ticks are more predominant, but we're starting to see it move north. So this is just another reason of many in our area that people need to be cautious about ticks.
Yeah, one last time, we got maybe about 30 seconds left. A good reminder for people as we get outdoors more in regard to ticks.
So ticks are a problem in our area. They are every year, and the diseases that they carry. We expect that this year, due to the wet spring we had, it's going to be a big year for ticks. So when you go out, use DEET or picaridin, tuck your pants into your socks, do tick checks when you or your kids or your dogs come inside. And if you find a tick on you, pull it out with the tweezers by the head, save it, and send it into the upstate lab, newyorkticks.org, and see your doctor if it's been attached for 3 or more days.
Dr. Anderson, always good catching up with you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.